And today we are going to talk tech. We're going to talk the pros, the cons, what's good, what's bad, visibility in the notoriously secretive world with our main man, Joe Lynch. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. And here we go, my friends.
Yes.
Another, we knew this week was going to be stellar. And, the next 2 days, we got our main man, Joe Lynch, with us here today. And then tomorrow we got wins and losses. I mean, what a great way to end the first week of February, isn't it? And Joe, the topic today is a pretty damn cool one. I mean, I'm a tech geek. I love gadgets. I love
it.
I got half my house is wired where I just tell Google whatever I want and it happens. I'm that guy.
Guys.
I know, and it's like I often have a ton of family members come to me and how do you use this tech, how do you use that tech, and I'm the guy that gets frustrated when people don't understand the tech they have. And I try to hold back a bit. It's like when mom tries to use the cell phone for certain things. I'm like, Mom, come on. How do you not know that? You've had a cell phone for like a day. I'm brutal when it comes to that. But you, my friend, brought up when you asked to talk about this. Such a great topic because we come across a lot of companies that don't really have tech. And they're like, nah, we don't really need tech. We're gonna keep it old school. We're gonna keep it cool. Right. And then you have some companies that have tech. And here's the one thing about tech. Like if we look at, CRM tech, for example, I mean, you look at the HubSpots, the Salesforce. Salesforce is one of the most robust programs on the planet. But damn, when you don't know how to use it, it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the systems become a chore, not a tool. And this is tech at its core, right? So let's break it down, my friend. Let's talk about some tech, and let's talk about. There's a couple other things I want to ask you, but first, I want to dive into what you wanted to talk about, which was tech.
Right. Well, I think you brought up one part of tech, which is the. Well, first off, I should say, DJ and Dan, thank you so much for having me back on your podcast.
Oh man, thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
We love having you, brother.
One of the things I think is we can look at technology and like, how do I sell more? Obviously, very important to all of us. I think there's another side of it. So that's the sales marketing side of tech. And it's not going away. I think social media is part of that, right? I think there's another big chunk, which is just the for third-party logistics companies and brokers, we're all going to have to upgrade our tech. And the reason I say that is because the big boys are. And what we're starting to see is it's not just, hey, it's a little more convenient for them. It's actually driving down the cost per load. So if you want, let's talk about the sales and marketing tech first. If you're
love it, because tech for sales and marketing, you said something before the show that was so bang on, because that was my sales training. You want to close more deals, make more phone calls, right? Like it was all about the phone call. You got to make 100 calls a day in order to get this, or you got to do this in order to get this. And you're right, Joe, it all revolved. So for all of you watching and listening, when we were backstage, Joe brought up such a valid point about the fact that, it was like, okay, we got to make 150 calls a week, or got to make 100 calls a week, or got to make 70 calls. Everything revolved around that call.
Calls.
And when I first started, going on 29 years now, oh my God, that just totally freaked me out when I said that. But going on 29 years now, it was like, we still had the big roll of paper in the fax machine. Right? Like our load sheets were literally, I don't even know what you call it, where you would have the one page and then it would transpose the writing onto the second page, like whatever that black sheet. Kind of like how they used to do credit cards.
The fact that you even
for all of you watching
that.
and listening that don't know what that is, before TAP and all this stuff, they had this like rectangle machine where you'd put your credit card in and they'd put this piece of paper.
Right. There's a carbon.
Come on, they sounded so important though.
Carbon. Yeah. But the carbon credit card, right? And it was like, and as horrible as this sounds, but I remember as a kid, when I first got my first credit card, I'd be like, okay, so I get paid on Friday and I could pay part of my credit card. Okay, I can buy this thing because it's Thursday because it won't process till Monday and I know it won't bounce. And I know that's horrible to say, but it's reality. and the tech that has come. I mean, okay. So question for you guys. How many of you actually carry cash these days?
Ooh.
All right. Yeah,
I
it's funny.
don't.
My kids told me, "Hey, why do you pay for everything with cash? You look old." I'm like,
Oh.
well, I already looked old. I'm just, and I've gotten more used to paying with my card. But it's funny. I still want to carry cash around just in case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and that's the thing, right? Jeff says I'm old. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. It's I don't think I don't think I've carried cash in a long time. Now, I don't know about the US, but here it's like all tap, all debit, all, and it's
Yeah,
just literally
yeah,
on my
you
watch.
can
I
do
just go
both.
beep.
You
On
can do
my
both,
phone, I
but
go beep, like, with the
we
Tim's app or all the different apps that you have. It's like you set your credit card or
right.
your debit card up
Well,
in it and you never pay for it. Now,
and
tech, you want to talk about tech? Great. Saves time. Beep, you're done.
absolutely.
Right. The flip side, and if we just talk about the baseline tech for a second, the flip side, it's awesome getting a new one of these, but it's also the biggest pain in your arse because you got to spend 4 hours setting the thing
oh, it's
up
huge.
to
It's
make
a
it work
week
for
of
you.
lost time when you get it.
Yeah, it's like a week. Yeah, yeah. I was
By
gonna
the
say
way,
it's like a couple weeks.
one of the
Oh shoot, I
hassles
forgot to add this. Oh
one of the
man.
hassles I had getting in on this today was my little tech problem we had this morning was I just bought a new PC so I can do my podcast from that because there's a little issue with my laptop and my microphone. You're like, damn. So it's just always a waste of time. But getting back to it, that sales and marketing tech, that's coming up big. We started off, again, 10 years ago, make 100 phone calls, make 200
Mhm.
phone calls, get on that phone and figure out what to say. And let's face it, there's some people who are great hustlers, and that's something that they're really good at. And I think we've changed in the last decade, right? We all know we can use LinkedIn now, and we do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us will say that's where I get our customers. That's where I meet you guys, right?
Mhm.
Um, DJ, you just posted something that I really loved. I forgot what it was, but you put something about when you work hard, you get more lucky, whatever it was.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
this is where you build these relationships now. But
Yes,
sometimes
sir.
I say people brought cold calling mentality over to LinkedIn, where it's cut, copy, paste, or I send the same message to Dan, to DJ, to Tom, to Sue. Everybody who's stupid enough to connect with me is going to get a message from me over and over again, leading with the solution, leading with buy from me, not, no relationship, no adding value, no, and I don't even have to know who you are or what you do. Cut, copy, paste, send.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so it's great
You're right.
technology, but you got to use it right.
I've recently
I'm glad you.
because you know me, Joe, I'm a big qualifier. Like I want to qualify you out as fast as possible, and I love you for sharing that one with us. Um,
Yeah.
but it's qualify out as fast as possible. So I'm actually starting to send messages saying, I'd love to connect with you. Here is my core reason to connect with you.
Right.
If these are something you and your company are looking for, I'd love to connect. And I'm being straight up.
Love it.
I'm not,
Right.
I'm like, I'm pulling a Grant Cardone from beginning to end. Like I'm not beating around the bush. I'm not, because here's
Too
part of
good.
it. And I think this is a valid discussion when it comes to tech, right? How many, like, I get messages from LinkedIn all day long, people trying to sell me things I have no use for. That's automation, right?
Right.
That's putting it on duck soup. For all of you that don't know duck soup, you can just literally say, okay, connect with every single second level person from this search. And I found even if you do Boolean searches and stuff in LinkedIn, you still come up with people. Like if you do a VP search of logistics, present field, you're going to get people that write software. They're not in looking for sales training programs for the company. They're software writers, but you're still
Right.
going to find them because it's not perfect. And
Yeah.
I've found that for me, anyways, um, if you need this specific thing and you connect with me, it tells me you're interested because I've said I want to connect with you for this reason, and the reason being is I've connected with a few people that have had a standard message. Hey, you know what? I saw your profile. I thought maybe we should talk. I say, okay. So I connect. And then it's like immediately it fires right back with the big sales pitch email. Or we have a conversation and then the sales pitch email comes in. I almost feel used. You know what I mean? Like it's like, come on, man, just be honest. Tell me what you want. Like here's the reality. As a salesperson in logistics, you call a shipper, you're looking to see if you can do business with them. There's one reason you're calling, right? Like the whole, hey, how's the weather out there? Like, come on, that was that was when I first started. You asking about weather, but it's like we're calling for specific reasons, right? And we all have a reason. It's kind of like the way I put it is, you ever get a call from an old friend that you haven't spoke to in a while, and it's like 3 minutes of idle chit chat and small catching up. It's like, hey, dude, I wanted to ask you. It's like, no, you called me to ask me that, and you used the idle chit chat just to warm me up. So you know what I'm saying? Like we've all had those calls, and I'm sure we've all
of course.
we felt. I mean, used is a big word, but it's like really, like just. Like come on.
You also feel awkward because you know that they feel awkward.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I
just get out with it. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's what
and
you
if you
feel like.
talk
That's what you feel like that. Just okay.
100%. Just be straightforward.
Yeah.
And you talk about the tech when it comes to sales. I'm all about automate, delegate, delete, ADD all the way, because
ADD,
I can't pay
love it.
attention to things for very long. I need to have things that pay attention better than I do. Right. We were talking about this before, where it's the band-aids as opposed to the root cause of things.
Yeah.
Right. And, I feel if you have a call thing in place, plus you've got an automation thing in place, and you can kind of cast a wider net without spending 15 hours a day working, go for it. Because for me, the reality of all things sales is I'm going to invest all the time in the world with you once I know you're interested.
Right.
Until then, and call me an arsehole, anyone, but I'm going to try and invest as little time as possible until I know you're interested. What does that conversation bring you, Joe?
Right. Well, I totally agree. I mean, there's nothing you said that you couldn't agree with, but I think what's happening more and more in this space is we do have the tech, the freight tech companies, and they come from a Silicon Valley, Austin. They're coming with VC money, right? They think differently. They don't think, oh, well, we have to hire hundreds of people to make thousands of phone calls a day. That's not where they're coming from. They're saying, we're really going to pick a niche in the market, which we've talked about. Danny, you and I have talked about this before, the idea of give me a niche, right? I'm not chasing everybody necessarily, but here's a problem I solve better than maybe anybody else. And then they're creating great content. They're doing like this. They create a podcast. They create or they sponsor podcasts, or they're on podcasts. They're on FreightWaves. They make it to these conferences, and they don't value the that's the wrong way to say it. They aren't focused only on we make phone calls and tell everybody that we're the best for them. They know who they want to work with. And I think this is what we're seeing is they're bringing marketing where traditionally 10 years ago, I was doing some digital marketing for people in this space. It was difficult. And I remember people would always say, Joe, you have this big following. I was like, I have a big following because I wrote like 1,000 articles. I mean, on LinkedIn, I was on LinkedIn, I think probably first among all my friends, family. I didn't have any coworkers or family or friends on LinkedIn. So I wrote articles, and you go, yeah, that's easy. Just write 1,000 articles. How about you do that? That's not an easy way to get there. And I'm not saying everybody has to go the same route, but there's no hack. There's no, I'm going to do it the shortcut. You have to either make the phone calls, write articles, do the podcast. You have to get yourself out there. And I think there used to be just make the phone calls. Now I think there's more options, which is use LinkedIn, but use it right. And there's a lot of people out there creating content around how to use LinkedIn right. And to your point, it's not cut, copy, paste, send to Dan, send to DJ, send Dan the same message you have to DJ because they're all the same to me. No one likes that.
Yes. No.
You, like your first message, I believe, should always be personalized and somewhat. I do use a template framework where I change specific things in it. Again, full transparency. I use a template because I don't feel like writing 500 words or 500 characters, 700 characters every single time. So I copy, paste, change this, change that. The function, like the core, here's the benefits, always stay the same, but I change it. And I've had some people come back and say, it's pretty feels auto generated. I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. But I am, again, trying to capitalize on my time, because in essence, time is the only thing we all have in common that we can't get more of.
Yeah, we
So,
all have 24 hours. It's how
and
we spend that 24
exactly,
hours is what's going to make the difference. But
exactly.
I think what Joe's touching on is good. I mean, with the technology, we're kind of just getting. You still got to keep that personal piece, that relationship piece. It's
Right.
they got to. I mean, in the end, that's what it's all about, is relationships.
Yeah, and DJ, let's face it, when we're using LinkedIn, the idea is always to take it to a phone call, right? Take it to
Yes.
a Zoom call.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
I'm not going to close my sale online. We're not in that business.
Not a chance. No,
But
you
I
just
think
want
that's
we
a
just
big
want to get
issue
you on
that
the
a lot
phone.
of
If we
salespeople
align,
have.
can we talk on the phone? That's it. I
Right.
mean, that's really.
But I
Zoom.
also think that's a big issue for salespeople, is salespeople use the cold call as the sell call.
It's a
Right.
A lot
shortcut.
of them,
Yeah,
a
they use
lot.
it as a
And
shortcut
instead of
instead of.
saying,
Yeah.
hey, like even a cold call, right? You make a cold call. Let's take tech out of the equation for a second. If we woke up tomorrow morning, all we had was a cell phone. You make a cold call. You go get a phone book, make a phone call. For those of you that don't know what a phone book is, it's a really big book with everybody's name and shit in it. So you get a phone book, you make a phone call, and you say, hey, listen, I know I'm calling you out of the blue. Do you have some time where we can talk? Here's benefit 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here's my niche. Here's what I really do well for customers like you. Do you have some time to talk? Yes or
Right.
no? Let's move on. You
Right.
either win or you learn and you move on.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah,
But Joe, when it comes to the tech part, because I know we want to get into the tech part.
Yeah.
What do you see as some of the best tech for sales?
Well, I think well, I won't speak to like the CRM piece or the automation piece, but I will say, starting at if I was to right now jump in and work at a broker or 3PL, they would say, hey, Joe, you got to go get sales. If that was my role, I would say I want to focus. I don't want to. Then I just saw it here. Ryan Muhammad said, niches make you rich. And I agree. So I think that one of the things you want to be able to do is say, I have a niche. And Dan, you just mentioned the phone call. Do I want to make a phone call to a gravel hauler, and then to guys who move chemicals, and then to a guy who does some retail, then to a food guy? No, I want to pick something. And and if I'm going to call retail, I want to make that phone call. Most likely leave a voicemail, because they aren't going to answer. And I want to say, hey, DJ, this is Joe Lynch. Thanks for connecting on LinkedIn. Per my message on LinkedIn, I specialize in retail. We do this, we do that. We're already working with Target, Costco, Kroger, whatever you're working with. And by the way, your company probably already specializes in something. Pick that, right?
Yeah.
And say, we know the biggest problems retailers have are blank, blank, and blank, as opposed to saying, hey, you know what, we do great. We all, I know you mentioned banking. I feel like we all have bank, we've all had that pitch where, hey, free checking. Really? Well, who cares, right? Free checking. It means nothing. Oh, and we'll pay you 0.9% interest. You're like, oh, wow. Geez, oh, Pete, I'm blown away. I don't know how I'll sleep at night hearing these great offers. But if they were to
I sense a
call
little
you,
sarcasm in that. Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nothing message, and that's what we want to get away from. And I think the message you want to be able to say is, hey, I work with Entrepreneurs State Bank, and DJ, we work with young entrepreneurs. We recognize they have the following problems. Bing, bing, bing. Be that specialist, because that's at least an interesting message, and so I would want a niche. Why do I want a niche? Half the reason I want a niche is so I can be an expert in their problems, and then I want to talk about those problems, whether I'm sending them an email message, whether I'm sending them a LinkedIn message, or I'm actually getting on the phone. But
definitely.
Then I'm going to go to their conferences. So, that doesn't speak to so much the technology. It speaks to, forget the technology, become an expert in the problems that your customers have. And the best way to do that is become a niche.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's, I see a lot of the challenges in niches niches, specifically for the newer reps, because there's so much pressure to get business, like so much pressure.
Oh yeah.
And the getting business typically from the beginning, right? If you talk just walking in, it's like you're going to grab that low hanging fruit as much as you can. You know, the people that say, well, we send out a quote and you're okay, I'm going to put $75 on the quote and then I'm going to get the freight. And you get so caught in that vortex of crap freight that
Right.
you actually have no time to work on a
To
niche.
focus on a niche.
And
Yeah.
exactly. And if that pressure just gets relieved a little bit, like I remember when I had a bunch of salespeople under me, the question was, I need a year. Like if every salesperson you bring in, if you're going to pay them 40 grand a year as a salary until they start getting commission or a draw, like give me a year. Cause you know, I've seen companies and literally ones I've coached bring in people and 4 weeks later, they're like, where's the business? And 6 weeks later they fire them because there's no
That
business. I'm like,
yeah, that's
guys,
and by the way, I think also I love Ryan's words, spray and
Yeah.
pray. So true.
Yes, I was gonna say we gotta throw that. Good morning, Gary. Throw that up there as well. But
But I
yeah,
think also when you say to a new sales rep or any sales rep, hey, we specialize in everything. Here's your phone. Here's a list of people to call. These guys we sell to everybody. We do everything. Don't worry about it. Just make phone calls. That's you. And then 4 weeks later, you're bringing them in and saying, "Geez, oh Pete, Dan, you're not doing the job here."
yeah.
I don't know. Is your phone
you're
not
setting them
work?
up for
I mean,
failure. You're completely
your
setting
phone
them up.
not work? I
Joe,
mean,
you're
what's
giving
happening?
them way too much credit though. They give you a phone and they don't even give you a list. They just
But
say,
that's
go sit at your desk and sell. Like it's bad.
By
It's
the
Oh
way,
yeah.
bad.
years ago, there was I worked at a trucking company, and I remember I was looking for a backhaul. So we had trucks, but I remember I only had the business for going one way. So I was calling one of the largest brokers, and so I called them. And I said I need a backhaul, and they're like, right on it. They did a good job for me. I left that project years later, 5-7 years later. Every once in a while, I'd get a phone call from that broker, and it was always like a 22-year-old guy. I go, "Hey, Joe, we'd like to start moving your freight, blah blah blah." And I go, "They gave you the dead customer list, didn't they?" And they go, "What?" I go, "The dead customer list." And they're like, "No, I just started at blank, and they just gave me a list of all the people they work with." I go, "Used to work with, dude. You got the dead customer list." I had this conversation, honest to God, 10 times. So that tells me there's this, hey, here's the list of success right here. Just make these phone calls. And
Oh yeah.
and
And in 6 months, you can buy your Ferrari.
That's right.
but
Just
You know,
make
Jeff,
150 calls
Jeff
a day.
says, we'll get to some of these comments here. Jeff says, yes, personalize your introduction to each prospect to qualify first. Do your homework as those key questions. Are they in your wheelhouse? Do they believe in your core objectives and values? If not, move on. 100%. And that's part of the beautiful thing about niche is, you know, if you're like, so here, and we've talked about this a million times. If you're a salesperson that truly avoids failure, if you hate that customer saying no,
You're in the wrong industry.
go into a niche. No. I mean, go into a niche.
Well,
Because here's the
to
thing.
DJ's
They
point,
either
though,
are in tune
90%
with
of
your
sales
niche
is
or they're
fails.
not.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they're in tune with your niche or they're not. And if they're not in tune with your niche, it's not really a failure because you don't want them as a customer anyways because you have a niche. Just like Jeff said,
Exactly.
move on.
Yeah.
Right?
But
Ryan
to
says, I
Ryan's
work in
point,
the roofing industry, and the one thing you learn in niche is that all these companies are connecting in some way. It's a warm call every single time. I think that's one of the best ways to put a niche is
absolutely.
if you're in plastics or like you said, Joe, and you're in retail, a lot of retailers are having the same problems,
Right.
similar. Let me rephrase that. Similar problems. But if you're that solution provider, you know, it was like trade shows before COVID. Trade shows were one of the best niches ever because if you didn't know how to go into a trade show, how to get the lumpers to unload the trucks in a decent amount of time, when your dock lot times were, all these other things, you'd have your customers' products sitting in a parking lot and everybody'd be standing there like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? So you go to the experts in trade shows, they get you in, they get you out, they know the people on the docks. Like that was one of the best kind of niches ever because it was specialized. Right? Hey, do you do trade shows? No. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Right. That's it. That was the call. That was what it was. And so that's, Ryan, that's very good that you put it that way. And then
Yeah, I
here's your,
agree.
it's a spray and pray. Yeah. And the other one is carpet bomb. Let's
No,
get an RFP and just
but
carpet bomb it.
but here's the thing. I mentioned when we are prepping for this is my friend Bob
Good morning,
Beerfeld.
Daniel.
He was saying he done shipper survey.
Yep.
So he's trying to talk. By the way, he always says the struggle when you go on LinkedIn is when I say I want to talk to shippers, the only people who want to answer is brokers and 3PLs and providers, right? So he wants to only talk to shippers, and he's done the survey. I think he's done it every other year. I'm going to have him on my podcast soon to talk about it, but he's been on before. And one of the things he said is the shippers say, I get calls, dozens sometimes a week, from people who know nothing about my company, nothing about my freight, nor do they care. And they all say the same thing. I know I'm just on some list. And that, again, that's the whole idea of we've automated this faster, which is, again, we have to make the phone calls. But if you have to make 100 phone calls a day, make them all to retailers. And by the way, don't just call and say, hi, I'm an expert at retail. Actually do your homework and say, we work with 3 or 4 of these companies. I'm going to talk to my existing customers and really become an expert in the problems they solve. Go to the food shippers, conferences, read the magazines they read, understand the Food Safety Modernization Act. If you're in food, whatever it is, become an expert. Because here's the thing, fellas, our business, if you're in the middle, right? If you're a broker, if you're a 3PL, it's becoming more automated every day, more digital every day. Yes. There's going to be less and less need for people in the middle, which is fine. This is the way of the world. So who's going to get pushed out? The hustlers? Or, by the way, hustlers will always be there. But I think you have a better chance of staying if somebody says, you know why I work with DJ? The dude is a flat out expert in the food supply chain or the retail supply chain or whatever it is. That's the guy. And that means I care end to end. The idea that you can get me a truck and that you're the only one, soon there's a robot that's going to do our jobs.
Yes.
You look at the banking industry as one for good. There is already conversations in Canada about getting rid of tellers. Literally being an automated system where you walk in and there's 15 automated systems, kind of like the self-checkout at like a grocery store or Walmart or something, where there's 1 or 2 employees. And if you need help, you just push a button, they come over, okay, you do this, override, bang, and it's done. Right. And you look at the volume of people that get serviced and for me personally, it's a lack of personalization. I hate it. I personally hate it when it comes to things that I buy. And I think my perception is there's going to be it's going to come to an automation process that's going to frustrate a lot of shippers. And that personal touch is going to get more and more and more important. I think COVID has shown shippers how volatile and how expensive supply chains can be if there's a little bit of friction. I think it's revealed this.
You might be right. There's going to be people in the middle, but I will say this: technology is going to lower the cost of moving a load.
Absolutely.
And so if there's one player who's lowering the cost per load 3% per year, 5% per year, and then you say, well, I can do it as good as DJ, I can do it as good as Dan, and they've invested in the technology. No, you can't do it as well as they do. And I'll throw the one other thing out there. What's driving freight tech a lot of times right now is consumer technology that we use. So if you use Lyft or Uber or Instacart or Amazon or a million different consumer technologies, I'm using it at home, and then I say, I ordered this pizza, and I'd rather than make the phone call like I might have. Now I just did it online. And I'm tracking it online, and then you go to work and somebody says, no, you can't have that technology. You're like, dude, the pizza company did it for me. I want what the pizza guy gave me. So
no, you're 100% right.
And you mentioned the lack of personalization. Mm-hmm. When I buy on Amazon, I don't think to myself, I didn't get what I wanted personalization-wise. Sometimes I do, to your point, Dan, want the person. When I want the person, I want the person. You can't tell me one day, hey, what was personal is now just a tech platform. But sometimes I want the tech platform. So it comes down to understanding what your customer wants.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, to that point, we have to be careful because customers having a problem, if they're talking and dealing with a computer, they're going to get even more pissed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
When you're dealing
Yeah.
with an automated system and you're not able to talk to somebody directly, and you're already pissed,
Oh yeah.
oh man,
Yeah.
look
You know,
out!
How
there's
many
another.
times have you done that when you use like a program online? You're like, something's not working. It's like, let's get on. I mean, I make the phone call first because I want to talk to somebody. It's
I
like you get
think
on
so too.
chat. Chat's the next best thing because
Right.
it's like an instant
Yes,
reply.
yes, yeah,
But
yeah.
even in chat, a lot of the times, like especially if it's like a digital thing, I'm like, okay, what's your phone number? They're like, well, we don't do phone calls. I'm like, listen, what can be done in a 3-minute phone call is going to take us 20 minutes here on chat. Like this is,
Yeah.
and this is when my I start blowing lids and
Right.
popping
Oh
gaskets
yeah.
because it's like, dude, just get on the phone. And
Please talk to
you
me.
know,
Yeah,
if you've got a simple supply chain, then you're right, Joe. You go on Amazon and it's like you order this, and there's actually for me, there's a level of satisfaction knowing I can order it in 30 seconds.
Right.
Literally, you'll tell me, hey, this is a great book. And I'm like, oh, is it really? And I can stare at you like this and type the book name in and go buy, and it'll be at my door tomorrow.
Right.
That's pretty friggin' cool. And I love that. What
absolutely.
really interests me, and I think the point that is really driving home is your pizza guy can show you exactly where your friggin' $20
Right?
pizza
Right.
is, but I just paid $6,500 for that truck to go
And
from
where
A to
the
B. I've got
where is it?
$200,000 worth of my product on it, and I
Right.
call you up and go, "Where is it going?" And you're like, let me call you back.
Right.
But the pizza dude with a
Right.
$20 pizza, I literally could watch the pizza walk up my steps. Like,
Consumer tech is driving this. And by the way, it
yeah.
used to be when we
Yes.
used technology, and you guys have lived this. You get to a job and they say, "Hey, if you want to get paid, you got to go to this HR system," and it could be a piece of crap. And it's a condition of employment. You work for them. They told you to use that system, right?
Yeah.
Now the consumer now if you look at the way the technology we're using is customer facing. So the customer either likes it and wants to engage that way, or they don't. And I think one of the things that drives a lot of us crazy is when I say, yeah, I have a problem. I want to get on the phone with somebody. And then you get on the phone with somebody and it keeps saying, "Hey, you don't have to call us. Go to www." Oh, and you're
Yes.
like, "I know, I get it." And then the whole message, your call is valuable to us. Go to the website rather than call us. And
We're
what
experiencing a high volume of calls at the moment,
yeah,
and
which
please hang
never
tight for
goes away. That
47
message never
minutes.
goes away. But
We only have one call rep instead of 25 anymore.
But what's missing in that is the recognition of what your customer actually wants. And I think,
Yeah.
I still believe that, even when if I have 90% of my shipments automated and 10% are, have some sort of exception that drives ahead, that's fine. But if I really want that phone call from you and that's not something you guys want to do, you got problems. Because I think that's the technology for young people, especially. They love to go on an app and say, "I don't want to even talk to anybody. It's 7 a.m. I'm tired. Just let me do my job."
Yeah.
I don't want to be trapped in either one. I want options. If I'm the customer, I want options. And I think,
Wow.
again, they know from consumer technology what's possible. If you're on Facebook and you go, I don't give a second thought to how this works. You're on LinkedIn, you're like, this just works. And then somebody says, "Hey, you got to come on for 1-day training for this system." You're like, why? Why? Amazon didn't make me get training. I used Lyft without training, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that brings us to another part of tech is every system that you give to your clients or every system your team or you use has to be a tool, not a chore. Because if the system is a chore, hands down, left, right, center, every single time, no matter what you say, it will not be used to its maximum ability.
Right.
And I think personally, this is the big, like we talked about Salesforce and HubSpot, right? Salesforce can be one of the most robust systems on the planet when you and your team know how to use it properly, when the reports know how to be done. And a lot of the times these systems take experts to, at $300 an hour to, build and design, which I think is a big problem. And I remember there was a system when I first started, it's called Wolfbite. And Wolfbite software was like a dispatch platform and a sales platform. And it was pictures. And I know it sounds crazy, but it was like, ooh, there's a big thing saying loads. Ooh, that's where I go for loads. Ooh, that's where I
Yeah.
go for this. This is where I go for that. And it was so easy.
Jeez.
And like the company I was at when I first started, I mean, I think they hit $500 before they decided to write their own software. That's how robust this was. Now I don't know any of the back end. I speak from a salesperson perspective, and it was so easy. Now, it didn't have a lot of the integrations where, you know, you update a load and it emails a customer,
Right.
and that kind of automation, I think, is mandatory in today's world, because now you're eliminating one more email, you know, and if you can pull a
Right.
few of these things away, it frees up time to do other things, right?
Definitely.
But that automation process, for everybody watching and listening that's thinking of investing in automation, it's got to be a tool. It's got to be a tool. And unfortunately, Joe, you're right. We as humans, it's like, okay, you put something shiny in front of us, we're like, ooh, shiny. And it's like, you gotta take this 3-hour course to learn how to use it. It's like, come on, what, really? 3 hours? But what if that saves you 15 hours a week?
Right. Right. No, we definitely should be taking advantage of the technologies. And again, I think also,
Absolutely.
keep in mind the way this business was done 10 years ago was very different, because we didn't have all the tech entrants then. So now we have these tech companies. They're coming from a different perspective. They might not be from the freight business, and it came maybe from the software business, and they say, here's our marketing budget, here's our CRM budget. They're coming at it very differently.
Yes.
And by the way, I use the hustler in a good way. You guys are hustlers, and that's a good thing, right? But now, who do you want to bet on? The guys who have traditionally hustled, or the guys who are bringing technology? And ideally, you want to be the hustlers who are using the technology to your.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to bet on the hustler that uses tech all the time.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
so
say.
the world's changing so quickly on that front. And again, there's always going to be a new thing. And I think what you have to realize is, you know, the nature of our business is we're providing a service which is connecting a truck to a load, right?
Yeah.
More and more, that's not going to need a whole bunch of people in the middle. So you have to find a way to keep adding value. And I used to be, hey, I know where the trucks are, and my shipper doesn't. Well, this internet thing's kind of screwed that up, hasn't it?
And I guess, you know, and another message, if you're a shipper out there, it's not quite there yet. You know, like it's for certain parts of the supply chain, it is, you know, like air freight, that kind of stuff, you know, when it's going to land, you can track it. You know, ships as well. Most of the time you can get some pretty decent tracking depending on which company you use. Trucks, not so much. I mean, hell, listen, when I first got here, when I first went to an asset side in 2003, I think it was, we used Qualcomm, which was CanCom at the time. And you had the ability to turn a truck on and your customers log in. We're talking 2003, and your customer log into a system and they can see where your truck is. Right. And this, we applied this to Dell Computer, Microsoft, Apple, like we did it all with them. And they used to see where our truck is. And then you turn the truck off when the load delivered. Right. And it was funny because none of the customers used it. They would always pick up the phone. It's like, well, I get answers quicker. And I'm like, no, you don't. You literally name or email, password, you can copy paste, save it in your browser, even in Internet Explorer that time it allowed you to save it, and you go click and it goes boop, and there's your truck.
Right.
But you're not. And it's that, to me, if you look at the way we as humans operate, it's like, what's the easiest path? Right? We would give customers access to reports and spreadsheets. And 99.99% of the time, the customer would call and say, hey, where is this? And we'd be like, we just sent you the report you asked for. Now, obviously, I'm not in that tone, but we just sent you the report you asked for 15 minutes ago. Did you not see it? Yeah, it came in, but it's just easier for me to pick up my phone because they left their desk. They don't have the spreadsheet on this guy. So, but they're like, hey,
they
where
just
is that?
want to hear somebody's voice on the other end saying,
exactly.
Yep, this is where
but
it is.
To Joe's point, you're absolutely right. Like my daughter would prefer to go online, do something while she's waiting for chat to initiate and get answers that way, then make a phone call. My daughter would prefer that.
Absolutely.
My son is a phone call guy. My daughter's 20, my son's 22. Is there that much of a difference in that 24-month gap? Maybe, but it's just that personality. So
Right.
Joe, you're right to the point where you have to be adaptive to everyone's individual personality.
Absolutely,
You know,
yeah.
some
If you're
some
not
people might
adapting to
just,
technology, you're going to get lost. But at
well,
the
what
same
I, but
time,
some person,
we got to keep the
somebody might want a
connection.
spreadsheet still, DJ. Like somebody might want, no, I want it in Excel. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want a pie chart. I want it in Excel because they're
Right.
trained to read
it's
that
easy. Yeah,
process,
yep.
And you
right?
know what I don't like is I used to deal with this. So when I was still at a 3PL, I would say for my clients, especially the larger ones, I wanted to have a weekly call with them. So we would create the reports. And by the way, we'd take things out of our TMS, put it into PowerPoint, and then would be some Excels cut in, paste in there, just because we wanted to be able to discuss this. And the reason we want to discuss this is we want to talk about what went right, what went wrong. And every load that went bad, we did like 200 shipments a week with them. We would talk about every load that went bad and say, what went wrong here? Well, this went wrong and that went wrong. A lot of them were LTL. And we would discuss it and talk about fixing it. And I remember a TMS company saying, well, you don't even have to do that. We'll send them that report and it's all automated. And I was like, send me that. So send it to me. And I was like, I get it. So I can see this, but this isn't as nice as what I would have my guys make. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and you don't even have to have a meeting with them. I was like, the reason I have that weekly meeting with them is so I can have a face-to-face with them and talk about what went right, what went wrong, and also build the relationship. They're big hockey fans. We're big hockey fans. We talked about hockey, talked about their horses. We had a good conversation, and I think that's people work. So there's stuff that I want to automate because it's not good for people, and there's stuff that I say, if I'm giving you bad news and saying, hey, DJ, the truck that was supposed to pick up at your place today,
Yeah, you don't want to automate
you're going to
that.
pick up. I go, oh, cool, that's automated, right? I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to hear DJs screaming. I automated that process. Or even worse, when guys used to work for me, I go, did you call DJ and tell him his truck's not going to be there? I texted him. I'm like, what he said? He said, fine. Was it a FU fine or was it really fine?
Yeah. Was it a capitalized
So I think
fine?
that's
Because he's mad.
All caps. Yeah.
But that's what we need to get to is what do our customers, how do they want to interact with us? But
Absolutely.
I think also use technology where it makes sense, use people where it makes sense. And again, I remember this is 20, 30 years ago. I was at the grocery store and the lady checked out using the beep, beep. So she was doing this still with a regular cashier. And then when she was done, the machine said, thank you for shopping at Chatham. And I was like, really? so you had to automate the thank you. The lady kept
Yeah.
like, come on.
That's crazy. Ryan says, so we've got a ton of, good morning, Daniel. Ryan says, I prime each call by by calling my customers before and asking what they're facing, which relates to the cold call. So that goes back a bit. Sorry, Ryan, we're a little bit behind on the comments. Even McDonald's now, you can go through the drive-through. The message is automated message. If you have a McWard's card or whatever, live person comes on. Ryan says, I hit 0 until I get somebody. Oh yeah. How many times have I, where it's like
0 pounds, 0 pounds. Just keep doing
and you
that.
just keep going until somebody picks up, right? Because you're like, it sends you to 14 different things. Adam says, I love the picture training. 100%, man. We learn in pictures. And I mean, call me old school, but you give me a picture for everything and I'm good with it. Nam says, I would take my guys out to breakfast once a month just to talk and catch up. And I think that's, like, I do think there's that human part of it, right? But back to Joe's point,
but
I also think there's going to be customers out there that they have no desire to speak to anyone. They have no, if they could automate everything and go, I mean, you look at like the Day and Rosses in Canada, years ago, they started a system where you can book freight online. Right. And it's like, get your quotes online. Like that's how all this tech started, right? Get your quotes online. So now you don't even have to pick up the phone. You just enter your dimensions, your origin, your destination, and you get an instant quote. And it's like, oh my God, that's so easy. And it is from a salesperson's perspective. Like I remember when somebody was asking about LTL. When I'd first come in the morning, I'd pull up Polaris's website, and Polaris does 1 to 4 skids, Canada, US, US, Canada. They pretty much cover most of the US and Canada, they were like golden for 1 to 4 skids. So I'd always have their website up, and I'm on a cold call and somebody says, well, we do like 2 skids. I'm like, immediately click that tab with Polaris. I'm already logged in. What's your origin and destination? And I enter the information. So, excuse me, they're going to hear some key taps. Well, my rate's this. That's a pretty good number. And so that, I believe, is a wicked piece of tech to move your sales call forward, so you can skip the sequences where, okay, give me 5 minutes, I'm going to get back to you. And in that 5 minutes, they get a phone call, they've ran off, you just lost a day's productivity, right? Like, so there's that tech that helps us move that sequencing and the sales forward. And then there's the tech that serves the client. And there's the tech that we connect with. So there's all these different tentacles of tech, right? And this show could be 3 hours on tech. And I mean, we're already, 15 minutes over schedule. But I mean, but I think it's a valid
but it
conversation.
Is such a crucial topic. And I did so there's 2 quotes. I'm gonna throw this one in here. We'll talk about it for a second because it's really tying to it anyways. This was from everythingsupplychain.com. If supply chain had an arch enemy, it would be called bad communication.
Yeah,
that's a
good one.
What I say all the time is that communication is the game changer in the logistics business. And so often I don't want to make that call to Dan and tell him the bad news. Why? Because he'll get mad. Well, he's going to be even madder tomorrow when he finds out what I'm going to tell him today, right?
He finds out some other way.
I know he said that was super important, but I'm not going to do it. And I think like that extra, and again, technology is taking some of this over, and hopefully that will be a good thing. But that extra email saying, just FYI, that truck's going to be late, or the extra phone call, the extra text, all those things matter. And, I think that's a great quote. It's the arch enemy.
I think it's an awesome quote.
What's the other quote, DJ?
So I got a good one. If we're ready to go, I will. I'll end this here then. I do have this one. It kind of made me laugh, so that's why I wanted to save it.
You're really setting this quote up. It better be good, buddy.
Thank you, Joe, for joining us. Guys, catch out Joe's podcast as well. Like and subscribe down below. We are live Monday through Friday. Again, Joe, thank you, man.
9 a.m. Eastern.
Yes, 9 a.m.
You know what, DJ? Let's give a shout out to our sponsor, American Logistics and Centurion Trucking. Daman and his team over out in British Columbia. He's going to be on with us soon,
right?
Yeah, he's actually coming on next week, I believe it is. Next week or the week after, so I'd have to check the Trello board. But we got Daman coming on. Awesome. Daman's the guy that puts people before profits. If you're a Canadian agent looking to get a placement somewhere and you're not happy where you are, give Daman a call. Agents at centuriontrucking.com. Check the show notes out. Awesome group of company. You got any freight over in Ohio, New Jersey, New York area, all going back to BC and all that. Give him a call. Can't help you for the Coots Alberta border issue, but hey, you know what? There's different borders we can cross into, right?
That's right.
I know.
So the quote to send us out. Hopefully, it's as good as I thought it was.
I know where I can get a truck for you.
Is who it's from, but it's leaders. Leaders win through logistics. Vision, sure. Strategy, yes. But when you go to war, you need to have both toilet paper and bullets at the right place at the right time. In other words, you must win through superior logistics.
That's Tom Peters.
Oh, Tom Peters.
That's awesome. I love that, DJ. I'm going to send you that one because I've got it on a little meme.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Send that to us.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Have a good day, everybody.
It's always a pleasure to see you too.
Oh, man.
You too, my friend.
And thank all of you guys for listening too.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.